Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to News Cafe. I'm Terence Ray, and I'll be your host for tonight. Tonight, we have an interesting menu of topics for you. We'll be talking about social equality, poverty, and about the seniors. All of this and more right after these words from our sponsor. Yes, welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Our guest tonight is Dr. Raymond Jessurun. Mr. Jessurun has been an advocate for many years, fighting for social equality within the Dutch kingdom, fighting to eradicate poverty on St. Martin, and defending the rights of senior citizens on St. Martin. But don't take my word for it. Here's to tell you all about it himself is Mr. Raymond Jessurun. Welcome to the show, Mr. Jessurun.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thanks for the invite.
Thank you very much. Glad to have you. I think we've been having to put off this discussion for a very, very long time. We've always been in contact via the media, via the news. You're very active, of course, on a weekly basis sometimes. And, there's always some hot topic that you're discussing that I always very much interested in, but of course, due to my many hats that I wear and my many responsibilities, I could never always be in person present with your news broadcasts or your press briefings or your topics that you're holding, that you're presenting or giving a discussion on. But this is the right platform, I think, for you to tell us more about the topics at hand. As I said, tonight we'll be talking about social equality within the Dutch kingdom. We'll be talking about the fight against poverty on St. Martin. And of course, we'll be talking about the rights of seniors on the island. And you are the right person to discuss these topics with. So tell us a little bit about yourself first before we go into that first topic of the social equality within the kingdom.
Well, first of all, thanks once more for the invitation. I am, as my profession is a sociologist, I am very much advocating for the equal treatment of each and everybody in every state. That is not only for us in the kingdom, but also as a representative of civil society organizations on aging and old age of Latin America and the Caribbean. To international organizations, I am their ambassador. So in terms of talking about these kind of issues, it is not only with the experience that we have in the kingdom, but also the one that we have from all the seniors living in Latin America and the Caribbean, that we can tell you that the Dutch government, the Dutch kingdom government, is still not complying with what is required from them since they signed international declarations, since they signed international treaties, which have also to be implemented in our territories. So with that said, this gives you already a step up that as a defender of human rights, as a defender of social justice, as a defender for equality and equal treatment for all, yes, well, we have to address the inequality in our kingdom and the way that we are being kept in this discriminatory position. So it's with that background that I will provide you with your answers on the questions that you might have.
Well, indeed, that's you hit it off right there at that last part. Indeed, please explain to us, the viewers listening and watching, what exactly is the issue? Because when you tell someone, for instance, here on St. Martin, that compared to other countries, they have a certain life standard, and some people might feel like, hey, I'm happy, I'm good, I have no reason to complain, my life is good, so what's the problem?
Well, first of all, let us start with we are all born free and with equal dignity and rights. That is not what I said. That is what the founding members of the United Nations, including the Dutch government, signed the declaration in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This year, that was in December. It was the 78th anniversary of the signing of that declaration. So with that said, the question is, how come we still talk about inequality where they signed up for everybody to be treated equally? So that is point number one. Now, a lot of people that have been trained in judicial and legal matters, they come up with what I call constitutional jargon. Constitutional jargon means they have been trained by the Dutch state to talk constitutional law in this territory. So, for instance, they will tell you, we have a state arrangement that is different from the Constitution of the Netherlands. They will tell you that based on our state arrangement, that we have certain things that we can do, and there are certain things that are not for us to do, but these are things that for the kingdom government to do. So they will always come up with how this actually state is organized and how this territory has to behave. And so with that said, the question comes up, human rights. Is that something that can be different in the different territories of the kingdom? And so for years, everybody here has been saying, it's our own parliament that has to establish what is our minimum wage. It is our own parliament that has to establish what are our maximum social pensions. And so with that said, they do as if our parliament is not bound to international treaties.
Okay, let me frame the discussion for our viewers first of all, before you continue. When you're talking about the state, we are talking about the King of the Netherlands, We're talking
Yes.
about the territories, which are the different constituents within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. We have, of course, Holland, the Netherlands. We
Yes.
have attached to that, within our Caribbean region, we have the so-called BES Islands, Bonaire, Statia, and Sabre. Well, we also have within our territory here in the Caribbean, we also have what we call the Dutch Caribbean Islands, which are supposed to be the so-called countries within the Dutch Kingdom, which are Curaçao, Aruba, and St. Martin. I like to call them the Cas Islands. Compared to the BES Islands, we have the Cas Islands, Curaçao, Aruba, and St. Martin. And within that framework, you're saying that we have the right as a country, within this case, our constituent country of St. Martin, we have the right via our parliament to determine our own social levels in terms of social security, pension, income, whatever. We have that right via our parliament. So if you're saying that we have that right, again, the question would beg to come up, well, what is the problem then? What is the problem?
Yeah. So the issue is this. When you have an international treaty, that has not been signed by our parliament, neither by our government. That has been signed by the kingdom government and has been approved by the Dutch first chamber and the second chamber.
And what is the consequence of that? What is the consequence of that?
The consequence is that they have decided that we should be treated equal. They have decided that we ought to be treated equal in the state, the Kingdom of the Netherlands. But by providing our own politicians the opportunity to decide in their own parliament and with their own government what to do with us, it seems as if it's our politicians is against us. But as I have been explaining to a lot of people, there is no legislation and there is no decree in our territory that is not being vetted by the kingdom. And in that respect, it is the governor of St. Martin that has to vet the interest of the kingdom. And so he has to vet if what has been decided here is going against an international law. Now, this differences in the territories. Constitutionally, it is possible that you do that, but based on international public law, it's a violation of what has been agreed between the states. And that's why...
Let's define these differences, because we're talking about equality, but we need to know what are the differences that we're talking about. So help us, for our viewers' sake, to understand what are the differences we're here talking about.
So let me be simple. We in St. Martin, we have a northern side and we have a southern side. The French Republic has long time decided to provide the inhabitants of the northern side with the same social provisions, the same social security level as in France. And they went even so far to taking into consideration for an equal treatment the increase in the cost of living in the Caribbean that can be higher than in France, that is being included in the amounts that they provide to the seniors on the other side. So if the French Republic can adhere to international treaties, why is it that the Kingdom of the Netherlands isn't doing it? So I was very adamant in explaining that even the Dutch government has signed on to these treaties. And then there is a difference between signing and ratifying. A lot of these treaties that give us equal social protection, equal social security, these things are already signed since 1966. And the Dutch government ratified them in 1979, which means that since then, everybody in the state had to be treated equal, because the first article in all these treaties has to do with how to treat the people. And the non-discrimination principle in Article 2 in all of these treaties is constantly saying you cannot discriminate on any ground. So if the ground is because you are in the Caribbean, that's why you can't be treated equal, that's violation of the non-discrimination principle. Non-discrimination means don't treat me differently treat me equally. The same treatment that you give others in the territory, in the European part of the kingdom, you have to give it to us too. And as the French have illustrated for us, they do it. It took a fight, but they have it now. So they do what is right. Why is it that the kingdom government is not doing it? And that has to do, on the one hand, with the Dutch kingdom, that they maintain their apartheid policy in the kingdom. And from the other hand, it has to do with our own politicians that don't have the guts to stand up for our rights and demand that we all are being treated equal.
But I still need to hear concretely.
You just come.
Yeah, I still need to hear concretely what are these issues. You mentioned indeed social security, like the French side provide for their citizens on the northern side of the island. So that's one aspect, social security. So what does that mean? Does it mean that everyone here on Dutch side of St. Martin should have the right to get a certain income or social income?
Yes.
And how do you determine that level? What level should that be? Is that minimum wage? Is that a livable wage? Is that, you know, what are the requirements? What are the metrics involved in determining that level of our social security?
So it is about how you guarantee that everybody in your state has a decent income, fair income. Everybody knows that by having a job, you will have the possibility to have a fair income. But we see that even though there is this international treaty from the International Labour Organization that equal remuneration has to be provided to people that do the same kind of work, it is not happening in the kingdom. There is one difference. Before 10-10-10, the St. Martin politicians decided we're going to increase our salaries. It happened. And they came...
Not our salaries, their salaries.
Yeah, their salaries. But it became even a whole discussion in the kingdom because the Dutch parliamentarians said that they were getting too much.
Right.
Now, their amount was a little higher than the one in the Netherlands, but bottom line was that there were still a lot of emoluments in the remuneration of a Dutch parliamentarian that our parliamentarians did not have.
Correct.
So, by exposing this was a step towards equal treatment for parliamentarians in the kingdom.
Right.
But now, because of a lot of pushback from the Dutch government, they even cut in their salaries. You remember they had to give in 25% when Mr. Knop said, you all for COVID, for you to get liquidity support, the politicians have to set the example.
Example, correct.
Until today, that 25% has not been lifted.
Okay.
So
but what if that is if you have a job, but what if you don't have a job?
So, and then for when you don't have a job, then they have to provide what they call a social protection. And social protection is then that you will get a social allowance.
Get it from who?
Government.
Get it from who?
So you will get from government. But how government has organized that is that workers and employers have set a premium aside, and that has then been managed by, in our case here, SZV.
SZV, right.
And then you can get part of that money, but not for when you are unemployed. That is something what they have in the Netherlands. They don't have it here in the Caribbean part of the kingdom. And so everybody then has to fall back on what we call understand, right. Social allowance. And then the government providing you with an amount. And as we know, the maximum amount here in St. Martin is 1,100 guilders.
Right.
Now, can you survive with that amount? Because now we have to talk about the unequal treatment in the kingdom. In the Netherlands, to provide that protection, the citizens in the Netherlands, when they cannot get enough from the social security system, from the SVB in the Netherlands, they will get a supplement from the social allowance that they have in the Netherlands. Because we don't get unemployment benefit from SZV here, because never that law has been implemented here, right? So everyone that has no income has to knock at the door of government. And then it is government that has to provide with the social allowance.
Right.
But then,
compared to Holland, which is a very rich country, we don't have that kind of money to be spending and giving out and supporting people who don't have an income or don't have a job. We don't have that kind of revenue coming in our government coffers. So how do we compensate if we want to equalize and bring it to the level of, for instance, in the Netherlands? Where will we get the money from?
So there you have this important part. The obligation to provide the people with this guarantee that they get sufficient money is from the state. And we saw it happening when COVID hit. All of a sudden, the state government said, the Dutch government, okay, we are going to provide you liquidity support.
Right.
So that you can pay. And then they came up with the next condition. The workers had to take a cut.
Yep.
12.5%. You remember that was the
Correct,
civil
yes.
servants. But the ones in the private sector had to live with a 20% cut. And a lot of workers even got more cut. And nobody defended them to get the same treatment as in the Netherlands, but only the anti-poverty platform consisting of the seniors organization, the Windward Island Chamber of Labor Unions, and the SunFed, the NGO Federation. So what I show you here is this. You have a right to an equal treatment where people are being treated equal. It should be everywhere, not only in the Netherlands. So when you say that we are being treated different, then you cannot say, okay, we have to accept it. We have to live with it. It is we that are responsible for it. It is our affair. No, because of the international treaty, no discrimination is allowed between people in the state, so everybody should get an equal treatment. And with that said, the state obligation is to guarantee that. So if there is not enough funding in the territory, the Dutch government has to supplement. And this
why does our government make a budget, right? And well, we know they are now working on, they presented the 2024 draft budget to Parliament, I believe, and it's over 500 million guilders and change, I believe. It has a small, not a deficit, but a small little surplus in the budget. How come they don't calculate within that budget the level that we need to provide our citizens with a livable income and have the Dutch government supplement that difference if there's a shortfall on our end here in St. Martin for the government to get that money, whether through taxation or other revenue sources? Why don't they knock on the door of the Netherlands and say, Kingdom partner, we have a deficit of, I'm just saying, 20 million guilders to cover our social minimum requirements. Can you send us that money, please?
Yeah.
Why doesn't that happen?
Why doesn't it happen? First of all, the budget is an unjust budget because the budget is not prepared based on the realization of an equal treatment in the kingdom. If that was the case, then the budget for how much we have for social allowances has to be done just as it has to be calculated in the Netherlands. And same thing with our social security system. If you say you are out of employment, then there must come legislation here. Every kind of legislation is being imposed by the Dutch government. This legislation never has been imposed. Never has been put as a condition for us also to have this opportunity that you get an employment benefit when you are out of a job. So here you see, even when this legislation comes, it has to be budgeted with SFV, it has to be provided with the monies, but which level we are going to provide? Because all the wages in St. Maarten are already not equal as the wages in the Netherlands.
Right.
Whereas there is this ILO treaty from since 1950 that says that we ought to have an equal remuneration based on an objective job classification evaluation. So when we put it on that level, human rights based, then the budget of St. Maarten is low, is very low, it's unjust, it's unequal. So what we have to do, not walking with the numbers that they present us now, with the CFT, the Commission for Financial Strangulation, but with the numbers that we need for our development, for our human development, then we will have a realistic budget, a budget that respects the rights of the people, the right to development. And by the way, the Dutch know well what is human development, because the Dutch, with the realization of human rights, they are almost among the first 10 of the world with the Human Development Index. So the same way that they calculated for territories in the Netherlands, what the Human Development Index is there, they can do it for this territory too.
Exactly.
And they never done it yet.
Okay,
so what I show you is when you don't measure it, you can talk about it. You as a reporter, you come with data. But this data, they have never provided you with it.
Right.
And for us to get it, we ask for it, but we can't get it.
Right.
Now, this is where we have to address the whole issue of equal treatment. Social equality means I will always make sure that nobody is left behind. I will always make sure that everybody has equal opportunities, that an equal, fair living standard. And so the right to development had to be realized long time. Since 1986, this declaration was also signed by the Netherlands to realize all human rights in the development of the people. So
how does that now rhyme with what's happening with in the Best Island? Because we see that the Best Islands is a part of the Dutch kingdom of the Netherlands, their overseas territory, or however you want to call it. But they are supposed to be legally, constitutionally a part of Holland. And there we still see the same issues as well, that they're not being treated equally. Now I know that there are a number of organizations within those islands that are now fighting the same fight that you're fighting. And I've been informed that they're making some headway in that area as well. So what can you tell us about that development?
Okay, first of all, what you see happening in Bonaire, Statia, and Saba, because respectfully, I refuse to call them best. Respectfully, I don't give all the provincial names in the Netherlands an acronym, and that is how we describe the Netherlands. So I don't go along with this denigrating way of addressing our people in the territory. We are the same citizens in the Kingdom of the Netherlands. Yes, we have a different place that we are residing,
right,
but it is still a territory in the Kingdom of the Netherlands. So if that is the case, then you have to treat us equal. What you see happening in Bonaire, Saba, and Statia is that they still did not get the same treatment as in the Netherlands. So with that said, it's the same thing that I was telling you for St. Maarten, Curaçao, Aruba. It is also for Bonaire, Statia, and Saba. But what we see is that they are differentiating with Bonaire, Statia, and Saba as a trick to tell the ones in Bonaire, Curaçao, and Aruba to forget about country status, go back to a municipality status, so that they are part of Holland. Now this, I call it a trick. We should not fall in that trap, because that is the colonial trap of apartheid. I treat you different. I treat you apart. I set you apart. No way, Jose. We have to stand up for our right. We have to be treated equal as long as we are part of the state, the Kingdom of the Netherlands. And as long as we are part of the state, the Kingdom of the Netherlands, nobody should be discriminated, treated unequal, treated unjust. We should get the same treatment. And that is where we stand.
Why doesn't it happen for Bonaire, Saba, and Station? If they are a part of the Netherlands, why doesn't it happen for them? I mean, let's call it a speed. Something must be wrong somewhere.
Because here you see the Dutch government, as you can see clearly, is a government that is treating the people unequal, is treating us separate from the European part of the kingdom, is giving us different treatment than over there. Now that they have jurisdiction over Bonaire, Saba, and Station, instead of them providing them with the same treatment as on the other side, they didn't do it as with the other municipalities. We are already 12 years in 10-10-10, since 10-10-10. And still they didn't give them equal treatment. And you know how many seniors die already in that time?
I can't imagine. But here's an interesting question from one of our viewers. Our viewers asked if equal treatment means that we get the same rights. That means also we have to pay the same taxes. We don't pay the same taxes as they pay in Netherlands.
Okay. The thing of paying the same taxes, same right doesn't mean same obligation. Because in social justice, you consider the conditions of someone. Because your tax system considers what they call, what is your draagkracht? How much can you pay? They adjust the law. But guess what? The profit tax in Bonaire, Station, and Saba is 0%. In the Netherlands, it is much more. In our territories, it is still more than zero. So here you see that you can provide to stimulate business, to stimulate a development, a tax incentive. So this whole thing of now we have to pay, we all have to bleed. No, that's not true. We all have to contribute, and you can do that with consideration. One of the considerations for all the Antillians, I say, is this. Our forefathers had to work in the plantation for free. We have never built up our own property. We never built up possibility to develop because we were refrained since slavery time coming here. So you have to provide us with much more incentives to catch up, because equal treatment was since slavery time that you did not provide it here in this part of the kingdom. So all our people are entitled to the same treatment as the ones on the other side. So historically, you have to make up for that difference, for that policy that was a very conscious policy of discrimination, apartheid. I use some strong words.
Yeah, exactly. And
for you to understand that too long we have been talking and sweet talking the differences. We have to talk a spade. And so just as was said that apartheid is a crime against humanity, this discrimination in the kingdom, setting us apart, is racial discrimination according to international treaty for eradication of all forms of this racism. And that means that we also have to get rid of this apartheid in the kingdom. Just as it has been now lifted up in South Africa, it has to be lifted up in the kingdom. And now who is standing up for that? Who is standing up for that treatment? Who is standing up for us to be treated equally? Who is standing up?
I believe I know who, because I know every election you and your organizations, you approach the candidates, the politicians and the political parties to sign on to the agreement to fight and eradicate poverty on St. Martin and to fight for equal justice and social justice within the kingdom. So what is the outcome of that campaign? You do it every election. I know you do it every election, but you also let me know about it as well.
Well, actually, I have to ask you because you was on a party, in a political party that was in government and that said we want to continue.
I was undercover peeping from the other side.
No, but maybe now you got to know why.
Yeah,
why
I got to see
don't
something.
they follow the line of providing us with a guarantee for an equal treatment? Why don't they stand up and address that for us? I can tell you that the Prime Minister last year, on the 1st of May, after I delivered a keynote speech for the Labour address, I explained this discrimination in the kingdom that has to stop in terms of how we are looking at wages, how we are looking at what people can get as a minimum wage, how people have to look at the social pension, because all of that has to do with one another. So when I explained that, based on these human rights, the Prime Minister came to me and said, we can't pay for it. And then I told her, Prime Minister, we will gladly show you where you can put the amount of money needed to guarantee equality in your budget. And then don't let CFT strangulate you. But you can tell the CFT, based on the right to development and the right to an equal treatment for all, you have to budget that too. Because you can be a financial expert, but you can't violate a human right. As a financial expert, you have to put it in the books. You have to administer that too. And that's what we see. We see that all these people, so-called experts, they come framed. They come framed based on what is your legislation now, what is your situation now. And they don't come with what does the international treaty say. So it is there that we have to inform and educate one another, and that we have then to say, if the politician really means to defend our rights, then he has to campaign rights. And then I listened to all politicians in this campaign. All said they're going against the poverty. But guess what? Who said we're going to get equality? None of them. They got from us the draft for equal treatment now declaration. And we said, you can tweak, you can make it your own.
Right.
People to see this is what I stand for as political party. None of them signed. Now, why they didn't sign? I hope that you will give me that answer. I don't know why they don't sign. I don't see why they are so hesitant to defend what is a human right. Not only a right of the people, but from them also. So equal treatment should be all for all across the board.
Right.
And by them having done already a first step at 10-10-10, no? I can applaud them for that because that's a step in the right direction. But they stopped. Why did they stop? So it's with that this program might be helpful to inform and educate them. And for the people to know, we cannot accept any longer that they do not stand up for our rights.
Well, yesterday I got a news out of Kershaw from one of my colleagues in Kershaw that they are actively looking for ways to do away with the CFT. So that might be a development that can aid in changing the mindset of our people to readjust their thinking and have them more empowered to manage our own finances and indeed have the guts to demand that equal treatment as well from a financial perspective from our kingdom partner. So maybe that might be also a way to do it. Get rid of the CFT.
Well, you can get rid of all committees. It is a committee for financial strangulation. You can get rid of all committees that don't want to respect human rights.
Right.
Yes? You are in a justice committee for...
Correct.
Are we being treated equal? Do we have the same treatment for our inmates as in the Netherlands? We circle around, we talk, but still things are not up to par. And what I would like to illustrate with that is that who has to stand up for that? The same way that the Dutch government doesn't want internationally that a CPT will condemn the kingdom for this discrimination and this inhuman treatment of inmates, the same way they have to make sure that all the means in the kingdom are being used to provide that equal treatment. So why they don't do it for the inmates? Because they did something wrong. It is human beings. So my position in this thing is so simple. The inmates have to be treated equal as in the Netherlands. Not by sending a few to the Netherlands, then they have a better treatment than the ones here. No, they have to get it here.
Right.
The next thing, not only inmates have to be treated equal. The ones that did not commit a crime, that live here in poverty, also should be lifted out of poverty, also should get an equal treatment. So the thing is very simple and basic. As a St. Maarten government, you have to stand up for the people of St. Maarten. Whoever is going to form coalition now, whoever is going to sit there now, they have to stop in playing the Dutch agenda. They have to stop in continuing maintaining the apartheid. They have to fight. They have to come up and defend equal rights. So it's with that said that you also have then to prepare your budget. And if your own civil servants can calculate that, the Dutch for sure can do it, because the ones in the Netherlands, the budget in the Netherlands is based on the realization of the human rights.
Right.
So far that the Human Development Index is one of the 10 best in the world. So make our Human Development Index the same as there, and make sure that everybody can get an equal treatment across the board.
So that being said, what can you tell us about poverty here on St. Maarten? We always, know that there will always be people living below a certain standard. We see it in our neighborhoods. We see it in different communities as well. What we saw also during COVID is that indeed the number of baskets that had to be distributed were a significant amount. We saw a lot of people standing in lines to receive these baskets with these goods to help them survive through the pandemic period. So that was for us, a little bit of an eye-opener in terms of the indication of the amount of poverty within our community. But when we talk about poverty, and for instance, we look at other Caribbean islands, we still tend to believe that we are on a higher level where that is concerned, that we are, in terms of our income, in terms of our financial standing, we're still doing better than our Caribbean brothers and sisters. So when we talk about poverty, who are we comparing ourselves to when we talk about poverty?
So, first of all, if our wages, salaries, are not according to the ILO Equal Remuneration Convention, equal as in the Netherlands, then we are already in a backward position, an unequal position, socially not justifiable. Are we going to a census that we just had? So which amount shall we take to say how many people have sufficient income?
Good question.
So it has to do with what is sufficient income in the Netherlands. What is the basic needs that in the Netherlands has to be covered for you to have an income above that level?
So you're saying that should be our standard?
That's already happening on the French side, on our northern side,
right,
with the French Republic. So do we have to maintain the French standard, or are we entitled to the Dutch standard? Because we are in the state, the Kingdom of the Netherlands, we have to look at what is happening in the Netherlands, and we have to get the same standard of living and adjust it to the cost of living here. which is much higher than in the Netherlands.
True.
So do your calculation. But when I go to the latest census, we did the following. There was this whole gimmick of improving the minimum wage. As you heard before election, the Council of Ministers decided on the proposal of the Minister of VESA
Right.
that on the 1st of April of this year, that's next month,
Yep.
the minimum wage will go to $1,000. Well, is $1,000 what a worker needs not to be in poverty? So the same Ministry of VESA has been calculating how much the index of cost of living had to be on top of the minimum wage that was there. Guess what? We said, we know that the Dutch already did a study. That was in 1974. And the Dutch used those data and they calculated that for a person not to be in poverty, to cover his basic needs, he needed 1,000 guilders a month, a worker. At that time already, the minimum wages were around the 300 guilders as a max. But I tell you, we used the same the consumer index figures from since 1974, and we are now in 2024. It's 50 years, Mr. Ray. And those 50 years, guess what? That 1,000 guilders basic needs of then, if you index it with a consumer price index, it's 4,000 guilders. It's 4,000 guilders minimum today. Why I say minimum? Because at that time, the basic needs did not include internet, did not include what you need to see us tonight.
Yep.
You need a computer, you need a phone, you need
internet.
So what I'm showing you here is that we can prepare what is needed as basic needs, and that did not happen yet. So when we see this, just by applying the cost of living increase, how many people have an income above, I'm going to use the 5,000 guilders limit because I have been calculating that we, by including a lot of things that we have now,
right,
was not there in 1974, we need at least 5,000 guilders.
5,000 guilders.
The latest census says that how many people have less than 5,000 guilders? That's 80% of the population.
Wow.
So we have been already in identifying that for basic needs already, a lot of people need to get a better income. But that is not poverty defined by government and the Ministry of VSR. And so by repeating these kind of figures that they provide, they mask the reality. The poverty is, if you cannot make the ends meet, then you're in poverty, then you are needy, then you're poor. So we have to address that because that is the norm that they use in the Netherlands. For people not to be needy, they give them then social allowances up to that level. So by putting the equality standard in the Netherlands up front, everybody has to be informed and educated, and everybody now has the right to stand up and demand it. Guess what? It was 2 years ago that the Ombudsman invited us from the Anti-Poverty Platform to present in the Kingdom Conference of Ombudsmannen. And we presented to them, let's stop talking about poverty. Let's talk about equality. Because if you provide us with equality, then we don't have these poverty gaps in the kingdom.
Right, we solved that problem right away.
And a good thing was that there was one gentleman, one of the ombudsman and the one from the Netherlands. He put out of his pocket a Dutch passport. And he said, the people in Bonaire, Saba Station must get the same treatment as in Holland. And they're still not getting it. So he also knocking at the door from the Dutch government to provide them with equality. So here you see that even when there are Dutch people a little more knowledgeable about human rights, and they stand up and they tell you equal treatment for them, who are we not to fight for that?
Exactly.
If they also see it, and then we see the unwillingness of the Dutch government, then we see that these people, let me put it this way, they are racist in the mind. Why I say so? Because everything what is white get a better treatment. That's not good. Because we are not white, we cannot get the same treatment. We have the same rights. And we should not move to the Netherlands to get that right.
Right.
We have to get it here. Just as on the other side of St. Martin, the French is now treating their citizens over there. So
Interesting.
Poverty actually is a reality of discrimination in the kingdom, of inequality in the kingdom, of not treating us the same way as over there, providing us, when you have no means, with unemployment benefit, providing you with social security, providing you with, understand, as they call it in the Netherlands, the bijstand. They can do that too, the same way they do it for them over there. But they don't do it yet in the best. They give them less. And that's why, with all the respect, I will promote that all Antillean, because we were called Antilles before the Dutch came here. They occupied the territory. And just as in World War I and in World War II, the Dutch were occupied by the Germans, German government. What did the Dutch do? They resisted. They stood up against it.
Right.
So why can't we resist? And why can't we claim to treat us right? And that can go so far to say, you also have to provide us with our own right to self-determination. But not kicking us out now, as they did with Suriname. Kicking out Suriname out of the kingdom did not provide the people with the same equality as their start position.
Right.
So we demand, whatever you want to do, treat us right. Give us equal right. And after that, we can talk about, okay, and now we can step out.
Okay, I want to recap our discussion so far because I want to take a break. So let me just recap before we take a commercial break. We have been talking this evening, ladies and gentlemen, with Dr. Raymond Jessurun, a sociologist with a very active background in the area of fighting for equal justice, social security, social justice, social equality within our islands, within the Dutch kingdom. We've talked about the social inequality within the Dutch kingdom. We've talked about poverty on St. Martin. We've understood from Mr. Jessurun that in his calculations, and I believe the numbers to be on point, we should be talking about a social minimum income of at least 5,000 guilders a month. That's a very interesting figure. I like that figure because at the end of the day, it gives us some type of perspective where we should be fighting for and where we should be going in terms of our fight for social equality. But we want to continue the discussion. I want to touch on the seniors on that plight as well. And I want to open up, after we come back from our commercial break, I want to open up the platform for questions from our viewers. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to take a short commercial break.
The slogan of StMartinNews.com is news, views, reviews, and interviews. StMartinNews.com is always on point with editorials and opinion pieces. StMartinNews.com is the best in political analysis, court cases, and investigative reporting. We tell it like it is. StMartinNews.com is the only news site to bring the news directly to you via email. Register today at StMartinNews.com for your free subscription to the daily newsletter and read the news on your smartphone, tablet, and desktop computer. Because we do things and view things differently at StMartinNews.com, support our work and buy a year subscription for only $75 per year. StMartinNews.com for news, views, reviews, and interviews. Subscribe today. We will bring you the news faster than Facebook.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to News Café. We have with us tonight our special guest, Mr. Raymond Jessurun. We're talking about social equality. We're talking about poverty. We're talking about seniors shortly. I saw during the break a question from one of our viewers. He asked if we got separate status in 10-10-10, in 2010, which happened, of course, with Curaçao and St. Martin at that time, at that date, 10-10-10. He's asking, why are we then still talking about comparing ourselves to the Netherlands? So that was a question that, we keep hearing across the board. When we talk about social equality, why are we comparing ourselves to the Netherlands? Why don't we set our own standards and fight for those standards within our own society, within our own community, within our own island, and indeed use that as a basis to achieve a level of livable wage, livable income, and we can indeed set our own mindset about poverty. Driving, for instance, a big car compared to driving a small car, it doesn't mean that the person driving a small car is poorer than the guy driving a rich car, a big car. It doesn't mean that he's richer or poorer. So in that sense, I can understand the viewer's point of view. Why are we comparing ourselves to the Netherlands? Of course, Mr. Jessurun, you pointed out that it is a fundamental issue. It is a fundamental right that we have that equality as the same as the kingdom partner in the Netherlands, because simply for the simple fact that we are a part of the state of the kingdom of the Netherlands. So everyone within that border framework should have the same rights, should have the same equality. So that being said, I know there are some viewers already posing comments, but I would like to have our viewers pose direct questions. Don't comment because we don't have the time really to read. So just pose a question and then we will discuss the questions within the show. I want to continue on the topic of the seniors. Again, you have been fighting hard for the rights of senior citizens within our island. What can you tell us about that?
Well, as we have been illustrating in the first part of the program, senior citizens are right now put on a lower standard of living than workers with their salaries, with their wages, because the maximum social pension is put on 70% of what is a minimum wage. That's majority of the workers. And so the majority of the seniors are being put to live at that level. When we look at those that have a company pension, they also have this arrangement from their insurance provider or their pension company, that it is 70% of, in the past, it was the last income that they had. No, it is the average income that they had over the whole period of work. So they have been set lower, just as in the Netherlands, but then because of the wages in the Netherlands higher than here, so the pensions in the Netherlands higher than here, the inequality in the kingdom, that provide our seniors with less than over there. So we have to just make it clear that if we want to take the seniors up to a level that is equal, that is treated equal, we have to provide them at least with what is also there for those in the Netherlands. So that's one. Number two, you said since 10 we got a status aparte, and there was a viewer that said, but why do we look at the Netherlands? When you are in a state, the 10 gimmick was a gimmick of we want to decide on more things on this side.
Right.
Now we want to decide in Philipsburg on more things. But still, the dump there. But still, hazards for our health is there.
Right.
But still, the equal treatment not there. So,
Right.
yes, you have the right to decide in Philipsburg that you want to, but they don't decide to tell the Dutch you have to comply with international treaties. So, yes, you have the right to say something now on our behalf. I am glad with 10 because it shows that to become a leader in a country, you must be much more knowledgeable about what are the international treaties that the country in this territory of the kingdom is bound to.
Right.
So you can claim our rights. You can do that for us. So don't be like ostriches. We see you when you are in the campaign train. But when we have to look at you, you're still with your head in the ground.
Right.
And the Dutch, what did you? They don't treat us right. And we need our politicians, our leaders to stand up and make it right.
So what legal means do we have as a recourse to use to force the Dutch to provide with that equality?
Okay, so I will tell you there is no lawyer yet that wants to go court and does not charge the seniors that are in poverty. None of them want to do it. And when you look at them, most of them is not from us.
Right.
So they defend the status quo. They defend the system. It's not right. Then even when you have the Dutch lawyers, I give you one example. It took Ayman and Seferin from Aruba just to get the right to vote as all other people in the Netherlands. Right. For the European Union, it took them to go to court to change the legislation in the kingdom that was discriminatory. So, in other words, you can go the legal way, but have a heart. We have to pay for all those things to get our rights. It's better to pick up the fight. It's better to denounce what is not right. Our Parliament of St. Martin was the first parliament after 10 in the kingdom that had the guts to call an international public law lawyer. When these people assisted our parliament with a document that was sent to the United Nations, it was Mr. Knops that called the Prime Minister and asked the Prime Minister, what is this thing that Parliament is doing? And guess what? She had to tell the Parliament that, hey, they have to look out, watch out, because we are with the back against the wall. This is what I call the high discriminatory politics. And then you have two kinds of politicians. The ones that had the guts in Parliament to say, we are going to denounce it. We want the United Nations to come with their experts to look into this situation. The Dutch
but you see right there, the essence of the parliament we have. We are literally with our backs against the wall. Because indeed, when they choose at that particular time to fight for that issue, we were literally indeed up against the wall because we were then at a position where we needed that liquidity support. And indeed, to get that liquidity support, Knops demand that indeed that whole issue be wiped from the table.
You see, why do you say the narrative that we needed that liquidity support? In the Netherlands, there was no liquidity support. People were helped without conditions.
Right.
So what I'm trying to show you here is that with the means that they had in the Netherlands, they provided for them. And for us, they said, you have to go for a loan. You have to pay interest. And then just for us to get a loan and to pay interest, you don't denounce this discriminatory treatment in the kingdom. So these are the examples that we have to show you. that we have not been defended based on human rights. And even when this international lawyer, public law lawyer, came with the arguments and provided us with the arguments to address the United Nations, their committees, to address the kingdom government, to stop with this discrimination, it was silenced.
Yep.
Because when Parliament said something, the government has to follow up on it. And instead of going to all the meetings of the United Nations and playing representative, the most important meeting that the Prime Minister had to go was to denounce what is happening, to ask for this country to get experts to look into the situation. If it is indeed that we are being discriminated, that we are being violated in international treaties. Now, we did our homework. The international lawyer did his homework. How many more people you need from the United Nations to come to tell the Dutch that they are discriminators, that they are violators of our human rights?
Well, do you think that will happen so easily? Because remember, the Dutch is a very big contributor to the United Nations budget. So imagine if you have to reprimand your own member state about human rights violation within their territories, and they are also one of the biggest contributors. It's the saying, we betaald bepaald.
Mr. Terrence, we betaald bepaald. You remember that they came with a condition. St. Martin had to get an integrity committee.
Right.
This is what the Dutch call integrity. This is what we call far away from integrity. This is not integrity. When you sign the United Nations Charter, where in Article 73, you commit yourself to put our interests paramount, you didn't do it.
Right.
In 1948, you come with the Declaration of Human Rights, you sign for it. You are one of the founding members of the United Nations. And you still, in our own territory, you did not apply it. You did not provide it. So who are we to hold you accountable with things that you signed? And that's where I say, we don't have to repeat their narrative.
Right.
They have instilled in a lot of us fear to tell the truth. I have been very bold with you today because
I appreciate it. I welcome your boldness because that's what we need.
I was asked by the United Nations Development Fund to address the governments of the region. And they asked me what happened with the seniors, what has impacted the seniors of Latin America and Caribbean the most. And I told them that I'm residing on St. Martin. This is what is happening on St. Martin. But the whole region, seniors have been affected by poverty.
And that brings me to a question that one of our viewers is posing. A good question. She's asking, since you're talking about the region, why aren't we together with the other islands, especially Curacao and Aruba? Why are we sitting, the three of us, the three countries, sitting at a table and discussing these matters with our kingdom partner?
So again, in the kingdom, the territories has been divided for them to rule.
Divide and conquer.
They had 3 of the territories represented in the Netherlands just now with the state secretary. And there they decided very fruitful meetings of what they are going to do to still not treat them equally. Now the state secretary is coming to St. Martin, to Curaçao and Aruba. What to do? The thing is that they keep us separate, and we, because we don't want to sit together and demand equal treatment for all, that's where we find ourselves in this predicament. So my suggestion to whoever comes to sit in government now is stop to do the same old story of all the others.
Right.
You promised a change, come with a change. Stand up for our rights and don't give up the fight. We have to present to the Dutch that they have to behave with integrity.
Yeah.
And just
because one of our viewers is asking exactly that question. Why aren't our political parties doing the same thing you are doing? Why are they not taking the same stance that you're taking?
Well, maybe they still have to get a little more education. Maybe they're still too ignorant to know that this is their right.
Right.
Right? But the question is, what about the people self? If you have heard me, if you know that this is what we stand for, that we have been speaking of, not only me, but also the others from the other organizations, why is it that the political parties don't implement what we ask them to do? Who are the defenders of the people? We do it. We speak out on their behalf. But a politician that has decided that we want to volunteer, vote for me to represent you in parliament and in government, do what you have to do. Represent us right.
Right.
Don't give up the fight.
Well, maybe you should indicate to them how they should do it, because at the end of the day, it boils down to money. We need the money to fight that battle. Like you said, you cannot just go to a lawyer and expect a lawyer to fight for you pro bono. A lawyer wants to be paid. He's also a commercial, profit-oriented entity. He wants to be paid as well. So you need to get the money. So where do we get the money to fight these battles? Maybe you should have the politicians look into that issue.
So one way is the legal way. The other way is protest. In social protest, there is a lot of
Mr. Jessurun, you're asking some other people to protest?
Yes, we can manifest that we are not in favor of continuation of this discrimination. And we can do that with Curaçao. We can do that with Aruba too. Because the people have experienced until now this inequality. And it is a matter of organizing the manifestation. Just that manifestations have been organized to protest when the kingdom government decided that one of our local politicians couldn't become governor. There was protest. Just as we protested when the measures came down, there was protest in the street. To stop this discrimination, the Dutch representative is in Front Street.
Right.
To go there and manifest and make it public for the world to see that it is not only the Parliament of St. Martin and the International Public Lawyer, but it is also we that want equality.
Right, we are the people.
And then I think that your news agency, stmartinnews.com, can do a lot in informing and educating.
Right.
It's being read all over the world.
Correct.
So in providing the arguments, in providing the reality, in exposing that the Dutch is not applying integrity, much more embarrassment is not needed for them to correct themselves.
That's true. The Dutch, I know for a fact, they hate to lose face, especially publicly and internationally. And one of our readers, our viewers posed a question, what if the Dutch come with more demands, more conditions for granting us that level of social equality? What if they come with demands, like, for instance, about our immigration, that we should, for instance, limit our immigration? St. Martin is literally an open border. What if the Dutch come with conditions in that area, as well as a condition to get that level of financial equality?
First of all, everything that they come up with that doesn't treat our people equal is discrimination, has to be denounced, and that has to be brought to the attention of the world in the United Nations. So again, the whole issue is you have two ways to fight a battle and pick a fight. You can go the judicial way, legal way, and we know from the case of Raymond Jessurun how long it takes and how much money it takes. We go the straight way to the United Nations because they have these committees to put pressure on a member state to comply.
Right. What do we use one of our Caribbean partner organizations, the CARICOM, for instance? Can we partner with them to fight this issue?
We can always partner with whoever is well informed. We don't inform them. So at the moment, we can't partner with them. Because let's put it this way, when we understand history, what the British did with the territories, they still have them in a commonwealth.
Yep.
But by providing them with independence, they provided the inequality that the people in the kingdom, in the commonwealth, are not treated equally because they say it's your own government, your own parliament.
Right.
We learn from that. We look at the French. The French said, no, you're all my territory. Well, they had to swallow also the obligation to treat everybody equally. So
because one of our readers, she asked if indeed if we should look for a status similar to what the French side has. But that means giving up our
that discussion we do in another program.
Right.
But what we should do is this. It had nothing to do with what status you have. Because this is what the Universal Declaration on Human Rights said. Article 2. Regardless of the limitation of sovereignty, you cannot be discriminated because of that. So what you see here, this territorial discrimination, this territorial differences, this is a violation of Article 2 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And so we always have to look at the spirit of the legislation.
Right.
So the spirit since 1948, for 78 years, is that I have to be treated equal. And I'm 72 years old now. And I have never been treated equal. And that is what I put also in front of all the governments from Latin America and the Caribbean. None of the seniors in the region have in their life cycle experienced an equal treatment.
So that shows you the monumental task before us in terms of fighting and achieving that level of equality. And I know this show tonight exposed a lot of these issues, and you have highlighted what exactly is the issue. Indeed, we are within a state, the state of the King of the Netherlands, and everyone within that state should have the same equal treatment. And that is the essence of what you're saying tonight. And I welcome the viewers to rewatch this show. The recording will be placed online on Facebook and on YouTube. So we have ample time to review the show tonight, listen to the contents, listen to what Mr. Jessurun is saying. And I believe that we definitely have our fight before us, not only socially, but also financially as well, because we need money to fight that fight. We need partnerships, we need regional cooperation, even within our state, with our country, sister countries like Curaçao, Aruba, and of course, Sabre Station, Bonaire. All of us need to come together and fight the same fight, because at the end of the day, it's for our equal treatment. So at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to thank Mr. Jessurun for his participation tonight in our show. It was very interesting. I know we see already that we have enough content for 2 more shows. So rest assured, we will be inviting Mr. Jessurun back to News Café sometime down the line, because we need to continue this discussion. We need to expose what is the issues, what it's all about, and we need to find a way to get our politicians, to get our parliamentarians, to get our members in government to fight the fight that we need to achieve in this reality. I like to close off, ladies and gentlemen. So I thank the viewers for their questions. I'd like to give a big shout out to our viewers tonight and those that pose questions. I try to get your questions answered by Mr. Jessurun. So I hope that you're satisfied with the answer that he's given us. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to close out the show. I thank you all for watching, and I wish you all a very good night. Bye-bye.